Fanny and the two little girls are gone to take places for tonight at Covent Garden. Clandestine Marriage and Midas. The latter will be a fine show for L and M. They reveled last night in Don Juan, whom we left in hell at 11:30. We had Scaramouche and a ghost and were delighted. I speak of them, my delight was very tranquil and the rest of us were sober-minded. Don Juan was the last of three musical things. 5 hours at Brighton, in 3 acts, of which one was over before we arrived, none the worse, and the Beehive, rather less flat and trumpery. I have this moment receival, from kind, beautiful Edward. Fanny has a similar gift. I shall save what I can of it for your better leisure in this place. My letter was from Miss Sharp, nothing particular. A letter from Fanny Cage this morning. 4 o'clock. We are just come back from doing Mrs. Tickar's, Miss Hare, and Mr. Spence. Mr. Hall is here, and while Fanny is under his hands, I will try to write a little more. Miss Hare had some pretty caps and is to make me one like one of them, only white satin instead of blue. It will be white satin and lace, and a little white flower perking out of the left ear like Harriet Byron's feather. I have allowed her to go as far as one's. My gown is to be trimmed everywhere with white ribbon plaited on somehow or other. She says it will look well. I am not sanguine. They trim with white very much. I learnt from Mrs. Tickars's young lady, to my high amusement, that the stays now are not made to force the bosom up at all. That was a very unbecoming, unnatural fashion. I was really glad to hear that they are not to be so much off the shoulders as they were. Going to Mr. Spence's was a sad business, and cost us many tears. Unluckily we were obliged to go a second time before he could do more than just look. We went first at 12:30 and afterwards at 3, Papa with us each time, and, alas, we are to go again tomorrow. Lizzie is not finished yet. There have been no teeth taken out, however, nor will be, I believe, but he finds hers in a very bad state, and seems to think particularly ill of their durableness. They have been all cleaned, hers filed, and are to be filed again. There is a very sad hole between two of her front teeth. Thursday morning, 7:30. Up and dressed and downstairs in order to finish my letter in time for the parcel. At 8 I have an appointment with Madame B, who wants to show me something downstairs. At 9 we are to set off for Grafton House, and get that over before breakfast. Edward is so kind as to walk there with us. We are to be at Mr. Spence's again at 11. 5. From that time shall be driving about I suppose till 4 o'clock at least. We are, if possible, to call on Mrs. Tilson. Mr. Hall was very punctual yesterday, and curled me out at a great rate. I thought it looked hideous, and longed for a snug cap instead, but my companions silenced me by their admiration. I had only a bit of velvet round my head. I did not catch cold, however. The weather is all in my favor. I have had no pain in my face since I left you. We had very good places in the box next the stage box, front and second row, the three old ones behind, of course. I was particularly disappointed at seeing nothing of Mr. Crabbe. I felt sure of him when I saw that the boxes were fitted up with crimson velvet. The new Mr. Terry was Lord Ogleby, and Henry thinks he may do, but there was no acting more than moderate, and I was as much amused by the remembrances connected with Midas as with any part of it. The girls were very much delighted, but still prefer Don Juan, and I must say that I have seen nobody on the stage who has been a more interesting character than that compound of cruelty and lust. It was not possible for me to get the worsteds yesterday. I heard Edward last night pressing Henry to come to you, and I think Henry engaged to go there after his November collection. Nothing has been done as to S and S. The books came to hand too late for him to have time for it before he went. Mr. Hastings never hinted at Eliza in the smallest degree. Henry knew nothing of Mr. Trimmer's death. I tell you these things that you may not have to ask them over again. There is a new clerk sent down to Alton, a Mr. Edmund Williams, a young man whom Henry thinks most highly of, and he turns out to be a son of the luckless Williamses of Grosvenor Place. I long to have you hear Mr. H.'s opinion of P and P. His admiring my Elizabeth so much is particularly welcome to me. Instead of saving my superfluous wealth for you to spend, I am going to treat myself with spending it myself. I hope, at least, that I shall find some poplin at Leighton and Shears that will tempt me to buy it. If I do, it shall be sent to Chawton, as half will be for you, for I depend upon your being so kind as to accept it, being the main point. It will be a great pleasure to me. Don't say a word. I only wish you could choose two. I shall send 20 yards. Now for Bath. Poor F. Cage has suffered a good deal from her accident. The noise of the White Hart was terrible to her. They will keep her quiet, I dare say. She is not so much delighted with the place as the rest of the party. Probably, as she says herself, from having been less well, but she thinks she should like it better in the season. The streets are very empty now, and the shops not so gay as she expected. They are at number 1 Henrietta Street, the corner of Laura Place, and have no acquaintance at present but the Bramstons. Lady Bridges drinks at the Cross Bath, her son at the Hot, and Louisa is going to bathe. Dr. Perry seems to be half starving Mr. Bridges, for he is restricted to much such a diet as James's, bread, water, and meat, and is never to eat so much of that as he wishes, and he is to walk a great deal. Walk till he drops, I believe, gout or no gout. It really is to that purpose. I have not exaggerated. Charming weather for you and us, and the travelers, and everybody. You will take your walk this afternoon, and Henrietta Street, the autumn of 1813. Miss Austen Chawton. By favor of Mr. Gray. Chapter 46. Henrietta Street. Thursday, Sept. 16, after dinner. Thank you, my dearest Cassandra, for the nice long letter I sent off this morning. I hope you have had it by this time, and that it has found you all well, and my mother no more in need of leeches. Whether this will be delivered to you by Henry on Saturday evening, or by the postman on Sunday morning, I know not, as he has lately recollected something of an engagement for Saturday, which perhaps may delay his visit. He seems determined to come to you soon, however. I hope you will receive the gown tomorrow, and may be able with tolerable honesty to say that you like the color. It was bought at Grafton House, where, by going very early, we got immediate attendance and went on very comfortably. I only forgot the one particular thing which I had always resolved to buy there, a white silk handkerchief, and was therefore obliged to give 6 shillings for one at Crook and Bisford's, which reminds me to say that the Worsteds ought also to be at Chawton tomorrow, and that I shall be very happy to hear they are approved. I had not much time for deliberation. We are now all 4 of us young ladies sitting round the circular table in the inner room writing our letters, while the 2 brothers are having a comfortable cause in the room adjoining. It is to be a quiet evening, much to the satisfaction of 4 of the 6. My eyes are quite tired of dust and lamps. The letter you forwarded from Edward Junner has been duly received. He has been shooting most prosperously at home, and dining at Chilham Castle and with Mr. Scudamore. My cap is come home, and I like it very much. Fanny has one also. Hers is white sarcenet and lace, of a different shape from mine, more fit for morning carriage wear, which is what it is intended for, and is in shape exceedingly like our own satin and lace of last winter, shaped round the face exactly like it, with pipes in more fullness and a round crown inserted behind. My cap has a peak in front. Large full bows of very narrow ribbon old tuppenny are the thing. One over the right temple, perhaps, and another at the left ear. Henry is not quite well. His stomach is rather deranged. You must keep him in rhubarb and give him plenty of port and water. He caught his cold farther back than I told you, before he got to Matlock, somewhere in his journey from the north, but the ill effects of that I hope are nearly gone. We returned from Grafton House only just in time for breakfast, and had scarcely finished breakfast when the carriage came to the door. From 11 to 3:30, we were hard at it. We did contrive to get to Hans Place for 10 minutes. Mrs. T was as affectionate and pleasing as ever. After our return, Mr. Tilson walked up from the Compting House and called upon us, and these have been all our visitings. I have rejoiced more than once that I bought my writing paper in the country. We have not had a quarter of an hour to spare. I enclose the 18 pence due to my mother. The rose color was 6s, and the other 4s, per yard. There was but 2 yards and a quarter of the dark slate in the shop, but the man promised to match it and send it off correctly. Fanny bought her Irish at Newton's in Leicester Square, and I took the opportunity of thinking about your Irish, and seeing one piece of the yard wide at 4s. And it seemed to me very good, good enough for your purpose. It might at least be worth your while to go there, if you have no other engagements. Fanny is very much pleased with the stockings she has bought of Remington, silk at 12s, cotton at 4s, 3d. She thinks them great bargains, but I have not seen them yet, as my hair was dressing when the man and the stockings came. The poor girls and their teeth. I have not mentioned them yet, but we were a whole hour at Spence's, and Lizzie's were filed and lamented over again, and poor Marian had 2 taken out after all, the 2 just beyond the eye teeth, to make room for those in front. When her doom was fixed, Fanny, Lizzie, and I walked into the next room, where we heard each of the 2 sharp and hasty screams. The little girl's teeth I can suppose in a critical state, but I think he must be a lover of teeth and money and mischief, to parade about Fanny's. I would not have had him look at mine for 1 shilling a tooth and double it. It was a disagreeable hour. We then went to Wedgwood's, where my brother and Fanny chose a dinner set. I believe the pattern is a small lozenge in purple, between lines of narrow gold, and it is to have the crest. We must have been 3/4 of an hour at Grafton House, Edward sitting by all the time with wonderful patience. There Fanny bought the net for Anna's gown, and a beautiful square veil for herself. The edging there is very cheap. I was tempted by some, and I bought some very nice plaiting lace at 3s, 4d. Fanny desires me to tell Martha, with her kind love, that Birchall assured her there was no second set of Hook's lessons for beginners, and that, by my advice, she has therefore chosen her a set by another composer. I thought she would rather have something than not. It costs 6 shillings. With love to you all, including Triggs, I remain. Yours very affectionately, J. Austen. Henrietta St., Autumn of 1813. Miss Austen Chawton. By favor of. Chapter 47. Godmersham Park, Thursday, Sept. 23. My dearest Cassandra, thank you 540 times for the exquisite piece of workmanship which was brought into the room this morning, while we were at breakfast, with some very inferior works of art in the same way, and which I read with high glee, much delighted with everything it told, whether good or bad. It is so rich in striking intelligence that I hardly know what to reply to first. I believe finery must have it. I am extremely glad that you like the poplin. I thought it would have my mother's approbation, but was not so confident of yours. Remember that it is a present. Do not refuse me. I am very rich. Mrs. Clement is very welcome to her little boy, and to my congratulations into the bargain, if ever you think of giving them. I hope she will do well. Her sister in Lucina, Mrs. H. Gyps, does too well, we think. Mary P. wrote on Sunday that she had been 3 days on the sofa. Sackree does not approve it. Well, there is some comfort in the Mrs. Hulbart's not coming to you, and I am happy to hear of the honey. I was thinking of it the other day. Let me know when you begin the new tea and the new white wine. My present elegances have not yet made me indifferent to such matters. I am still a cat if I see a mouse. I am glad you like our caps, but Fanny is out of conceit with hers already. She finds that she has been buying a new cap without having a new pattern, which is true enough. She is rather out of luck to like neither her gown nor her cap, but I do not much mind it, because besides that I like them both myself, I consider it as a thing of course at her time of life. One of the sweet taxes of youth to choose in a hurry and make bad bargains. I wrote to Charles yesterday, and Fanny has had a letter from him today, principally to make inquiries about the time of their visit here, to which mine was an answer beforehand, so he will probably write again soon to fix his week. I am best pleased that Cassie does not go to you. Now, what have we been doing since I wrote last? The Mr. K came a little before dinner on Monday, and Edward went to the church with the 2 seniors, but there is no inscription yet drawn up. Are very good-natured, and civil and all that, but are not particularly superfine. However, they ate their dinner and drank their tea and went away, leaving their lovely Wadham in our arms, and I wish you had seen Fanny and me running backwards and forwards with his breeches from the little chintz to the white room before we went to bed, in the greatest of frights lest he should come upon us before we had done it all. There had been a mistake in the housemaid's preparation, and they were gone to bed. He seems a very harmless sort of young man, nothing to like or dislike in him, goes out shooting or hunting with the 2 others all the morning, and plays at whist and makes queer faces in the evening. Chapter 48. Godmersham Park, Monday, Oct. 11. My dearest Aunt Cass, I have just asked Aunt Jane to let me write a little in her letter, but she does not like it, so I won't. Goodbye. You will have Edward's letter tomorrow. He tells me that he did not send you any news to interfere with mine, but I do not think there is much for anybody to send at present. We had our dinner party on Wednesday, with the addition of Mrs. and Miss Mills, who were under a promise of dining here in their return from Eastwell, whenever they paid their visit of duty there, and it happened to be paid on that day. Both mother and daughter are much as I have always found them. I like the mother, first, because she reminds me of Mrs. Birch, and secondly, because she is cheerful and grateful for what she is at the age of 90 and upwards. The day was pleasant enough. I sat by Mr. Kishome, and we talked away at a great rate about nothing worth hearing. It was a mistake as to the day of the Shurers going being fixed. They are ready, but are waiting for Mr. Paggett's answer. I inquired of Mrs. Mills after Jemima Bridges, and was quite grieved to hear that she was obliged to leave Canterbury some months ago on account of her debts, and is nobody knows where. What an unprosperous family. On Saturday, soon after breakfast, Mr. JP left us for Norton Court. I like him very much. He gives me the idea of a very amiable young man, only too diffident to be so agreeable as he might be. He was out the chief of each morning with the other two, shooting and getting wet through. Tomorrow we are to know whether he and 100 young ladies will come here for the ball. I do not much expect any. The Deeds cannot meet us. They have engagements at home. I will finish the Deeds by saying that they are not likely to come here till quite late in my stay, the very last week perhaps, and I do not expect to see the Moors at all. They are not solicited till after Edward's return from Hampshire. Monday, November 15, is the day now fixed for our setting out. Poor Basingstoke races. There seem to have been two particularly wretched days on purpose for them, and Weyhill week does not begin much happier. We were quite surprised by a letter from Anna at Tollard Royal last Saturday, but perfectly approve her going, and only regret they should all go so far to stay so few days. We had thunder and lightning here on Thursday morning, between 5 and 7. No very bad thunder, but a great deal of lightning. It has given the commencement of a season of wind and rain, and perhaps for the next 6 weeks we shall not have 2 dry days together. Lizzie is very much obliged to you for your letter and will answer it soon, but has so many things to do that it may be 4 or 5 days before she can. This is quite her own message, spoken in rather a desponding tone. Your letter gave pleasure to all of us. We had all the reading of it, of course. I 3 times, as I undertook, to the great relief of Lizzie, to read it to Sackree, and afterwards to Louisa. Sackree does not at all approve of Mary Doe and her nuts, on the score of propriety rather than health. She saw some signs of going after her in George and Henry, and thinks if you could give the girl a check, by rather reproving her for taking anything seriously about nuts which they said to her, it might be of use. This, of course, is between our 3 discreet selves, a scene of triennial bliss. Mrs. Bretton called here on Saturday. I never saw her before. She is a large, ungenteel woman, with self-satisfied and would-be elegant manners. We are certain of some visitors tomorrow. Edward Bridges comes for 2 nights in his way from Lenham to Ramsgate, and brings a friend, name unknown, but supposed to be a Mr. Harper, a neighboring clergyman, and Mr. R. Maskall is to shoot with the young men, which it is to be supposed will end in his staying dinner. On Thursday, Mr. Lushington, MP for Canterbury and manager of the Lodge Hounds, dines here and stays the night. He is chiefly young Edward's acquaintance. If I can, I will get a frank from him, and write to you all the sooner. I suppose the Ashford ball will furnish something. As I wrote of my nephews with a little bitterness in my last, I think it particularly incumbent on me to do them justice now, and I have great pleasure in saying that they were both at the sacrament yesterday. After having much praised or much blamed anybody, one is generally sensible of something just the reverse soon afterwards. Now these 2 boys who are out with the foxhounds will come home and disgust me again by some habit of luxury or some proof of sporting mania, unless I keep it off by this prediction. They amuse themselves very comfortably in the evening by netting. They are each about a rabbit net, and sit as deedily to it, side by side, as any 2 Uncle Franks could do. I am looking over Self-Control again, and my opinion is confirmed of its being an excellently meant, elegantly written work, without anything of nature or probability in it. I declare I do not know whether Laura's passage down the American River is not the most natural, possible, everyday thing she ever does. Tuesday, dear me, what is to become of me? Such a long letter, 42 lines in the second page. Like Harriet Byron, I ask, what am I to do with my gratitude? I can do nothing but thank you and go on. A few of your inquiries, I think, are replied to N. Avance. The name of F. Cage's drawing master is O'Neill. We are exceedingly amused with your Sheldon news, and your self-reproach on the subject of Mrs. Stockwell made me laugh heartily. I rather wondered that Johncock, the only person in the room, could help laughing too. I had not heard before of her having the measles. Mrs. H. and Alethia's staying till Friday was quite new to me, a good plan, however. I could not have settled it better myself, and am glad they found so much in the house to approve, and I hope they will ask Martha to visit them. I admire the sagacity and taste of Charlotte Williams. Those large dark eyes always judge well. I will compliment her by naming a heroine after her. Edward has had all the particulars of the building, etc., read to him twice over, and seems very well satisfied. A narrow door to the pantry is the only subject of solicitude. It is certainly just the door which should not be narrow, on account of the trays, but if a case of necessity, it must be borne. I knew there was sugar in the tin, but had no idea of there being enough to last through your company. All the better. You ought not to think this new loaf better than the other, because that was the first of five which all came together. Something of fancy, perhaps, and something of imagination. Dear Mrs. Digweed, I cannot bear that she should not be foolishly happy after a ball. I hope Miss Yates and her companions were all well the day after their arrival. I am thoroughly rejoiced that Miss Benn has placed herself in lodgings, though I hope they may not be long necessary. No letter from Charles yet. Southey's Life of Nelson. I am tired of Lives of Nelson, being that I never read any. I will read this, however, if Frank is mentioned in it. Here am I in Kent, with one brother in the same county and another brother's wife, and see nothing of them, which seems unnatural. It will not last so forever, I trust. I should like to have Mrs. F.A. and her children here for a week, but not a syllable of that nature is ever breathed. I wish her last visit had not been so long a one. I wonder whether Mrs. Tilson has ever lain in. Mention it if it ever comes to your knowledge, and we shall hear of it by the same post from Henry. Mr. Robb, Mascall breakfasted here. He eats a great deal of butter. I dined upon goose yesterday, which I hope will secure a good sale of my second edition. Have you any tomatoes? Fanny and I regale on them every day. Disastrous letters from the Plumpters and Oxendens. Refusals everywhere, a blank part out, and it is not quite certain whether we go or not. Something may depend upon the disposition of Uncle Edward when he comes, and upon what we hear at Chilham Castle this morning, for we are going to pay visits. We are going to each house at Chilham and to Mistol. I shall like seeing the fags. I shall like it all, except that we are to set out so early that I have not time to write as I would wish. Edud, Bridges's friend is a Mr. Hawker, I find, not Harper. I would not have you sleep in such an error for the world. My brother desires his best love, and thanks for all your information. He hopes the roots of the old beech have been dug away enough to allow a proper covering of mold and turf. He is sorry for the necessity of building the new coin, but hopes they will contrive that the doorway should be of the usual width, if it must be contracted on one side, by widening it on the other. The appearance need not signify, and he desires me to say that your being at Chawton, when he is, will be quite necessary. You cannot think it more indispensable than he does. He is very much obliged to you for your attention to everything. Have you any idea of returning with him to Henrietta Street and finishing your visit then? Tell me your sweet little innocent ideas. Everything of love and kindness, proper and improper, must now suffice. Yours very affectionately, J. Austen. Miss Austen, Chawton, Alton, Hants. Footnote. Chapter 49. Godmersham Park, Thursday, Oct. 14. My dearest Cassandra, now I will prepare for Mr. Lushington, and as it will be wisest also to prepare for his not coming, or my not getting a frank, I shall write very close from the first, and even leave room for the seal in the proper place. When I have followed up my last with this, I shall feel somewhat less unworthy of you than the state of our correspondence now requires. I left off in a great hurry to prepare for our morning visits. Of course was ready a good deal the first, and need not have hurried so much. Fanny wore her new gown and cap. I was surprised to find Mistle so pretty. The ladies were at home. I was in luck and saw Lady Fagg and all her 5 daughters with an old Mrs. Hamilton from Canterbury and Mrs. and Miss Chapman from Margate into the bargain. I never saw so plain a family, 5 sisters so very plain. They are as plain as the Foresters or the Franfraddops or the Seagraves or the Rivers, excluding Sophie. Miss Sally Fagg has a pretty figure, and that comprises all the good looks of the family. It was stupidish. Fanny did her part very well, but there was a lack of talk altogether, and the 3 friends in the house only sat by and looked at us. However, Miss Chapman's name is Laura, and she had a double flounce to her gown. You really must get some flounces. Are not some of your large stock of white morning gowns just in a happy state for a flounce? Too short? Nobody at home at either house in Chilham. Edward Bridges and his friend did not forget to arrive. The friend is a Mr. Wigram, one of the 23 children of a great rich mercantile, Sir Robert Wigram, an old acquaintance of the Foots, but very recently known to Edward B. The history of his coming here is that, intending to go from Ramsgate to Brighton, Edwa B persuaded him to take Lenham on his way, which gave him the convenience of Mr. W.'s gig and the comfort of not being alone there, but probably thinking a few days of GM would be the cheapest and pleasantest way of entertaining his friend and himself, offered a visit here, and here they stay till tomorrow. Mr. W. is about 5 or 26, not ill-looking and not agreeable. He is certainly no addition. A sort of cool, gentlemanlike manner, but very silent. They say his name is Henry, a proof how unequally the gifts of fortune are bestowed. I have seen many a John and Thomas much more agreeable. We have got rid of Mr. R. Maskell, however. I did not like him either. He talks too much and is conceited, besides having a vulgarly shaped mouth. He slept here on Tuesday, so that yesterday Fanny and I sat down to breakfast with 6 gentlemen to admire us. We did not go to the ball. It was left to her to decide, and at last she determined against it. She knew that it would be a sacrifice on the part of her father and brothers if they went, and I hope it will prove that she has not sacrificed much. It is not likely that there should have been anybody there whom she would care for. I was very glad to be spared the trouble of dressing and going, and being weary before it was half over, so my gown and my cap are still unworn. It will appear at last, perhaps, that I might have done without either. I produced my brown bombazine yesterday, and it was very much admired indeed, and I like it better than ever. You have given many particulars of the state of Chawton House, but still we want more. Edward wants to be expressly told that all the round tower, etc., is entirely down, and the door from the best room stopped up. He does not know enough of the appearance of things in that quarter. He heard from Bath yesterday. Lady B continues very well, and Dr. Perry's opinion is that while the water agrees with her she ought to remain there, which throws their coming away at a greater uncertainty than we had supposed. It will end, perhaps, in a fit of the gout, which may prevent her coming away. Louisa thinks her mother's being so well may be quite as much owing to her being so much out of doors as to the water. Lady B is going to try the hot pump, the cross bath being about to be painted. Louisa is particularly well herself, and thinks the water has been of use to her. She mentioned our inquiries, etc., to Mr. and Mrs. Alex. Evelyn, and had their best compliments and thanks to give in return. Dr. Perry does not expect Mr. E to last much longer. Only think of Mrs. Holder's being dead. Poor woman, she has done the only thing in the world she could possibly do to make one cease to abuse her. Now, if you please, Hooper must have it in his power to do more by his uncle. Lucky for the little girl. And Anne Ekins can hardly be so unfit for the care of a child as a Mrs. Holder. A letter from Rotham yesterday offering an early visit here, and Mr. and Mrs. Moore and one child are to come on Monday for 10 days. I hope Charles and Fanny may not fix the same time, but if they come at all in October, they must. What is the use of hoping? The 2 parties of children is the chief evil. To be sure, here we are. The very thing has happened, or rather worse, a letter from Charles this very morning, which gives us reason to suppose they may come here today. It depends upon the weather, and the weather now is very fine. No difficulties are made, however, and indeed there will be no want of room, but I wish there were no Wigrams and Lushingtons in the way to fill up the table and make us such a motley set. I cannot spare Mr. Lushington either, because of his frank, but Mr. Wigram does no good to anybody. I cannot imagine how a man can have the impudence to come into a family party for 3 days, where he is quite a stranger, unless he knows himself to be agreeable on undoubted authority. He and Edwa B are going to ride to Eastwell, and as the boys are hunting, and my brother is gone to Canty, Fanny and I have a quiet morning before us. Edward has driven off poor Mrs. Salkeld. It was thought a good opportunity of doing something towards clearing the house. By her own desire, Mrs. Fanny is to be put in the room next the nursery, her baby in a little bed by her. And as Cassie is to have the closet within, and Betsy Williams' little hole, they will be all very snug together. I shall be most happy to see dear Charles, and he will be as happy as he can with a cross child, or some such care, pressing on him at the time. I should be very happy in the idea of seeing little Cassie again, too, did not I fear she would disappoint me by some immediate disagreeableness. The comfort of the billiard table here is very great. It draws all the gentlemen to it whenever they are within, especially after dinner, so that my brother, Fanny, and I have the library to ourselves in delightful quiet. There is no truth in the report of G. Hatton being to marry Miss Wemyss. He desires it may be contradicted. Have you done anything about our present to Miss Benn? I suppose she must have a bed at my mother's whenever she dines there. How will they manage as to inviting her when you are gone? And if they invite, how will they continue to entertain her? Let me know as many of your parting arrangements as you can, as to wine, etc. I wonder whether the ink bottle has been filled. Does butcher's meat keep up at the same price and is not bread lower than 2s? 6d. Mary's blue gown, my mother must be in agonies. I have a great mind to have my blue gown dyed some time or other. I proposed it once to you, and you made some objection, I forget what. It is the fashion of flounces that gives it particular expediency. Mrs. and Miss Wildman have just been here. Miss is very plain. I wish Lady B may be returned before we leave GM. That Fanny may spend the time of her father's absence at Goodnestone, which is what she would prefer. Friday, they came last night at about 7. We had given them up, but I still expected them to come. Dessert was nearly over, a better time for arriving than an hour and a half earlier. They were late because they did not set out earlier and did not allow time enough. Charles did not aim at more than reaching Sittingbourne by 3, which could not have brought them here by dinner time. They had a very rough passage. He would not have ventured if he had known how bad it would be. However, here they are, safe and well, just like their own nice selves. Fanny looking as neat and white this morning as possible, and dear Charles all affectionate, placid, quiet, cheerful good humor. They are both looking very well, but poor little Cassie is grown extremely thin and looks poorly. I hope a week's country air and exercise may do her good. I am sorry to say it can be but a week. The baby does not appear so large in proportion as she was, nor quite so pretty, but I have seen very little of her. Cassie was too tired and bewildered just at first to seem to know anybody. We met them in the hall, the women and girl part of us, but before we reached the library she kissed me very affectionately, and has since seemed to recollect me in the same way. It was quite an evening of confusion, as you may suppose. At first we were all walking about from one part of the house to the other. Then came a fresh dinner in the breakfast room for Charles and his wife, which Fanny and I attended. Then we moved into the library, were joined by the dining room people, were introduced, and so forth. And then we had tea and coffee, which was not over till past 10. Billiards again drew all the odd ones away, and Edward, Charles, the 2 Fannys, and I sat snugly talking. I shall be glad to have our numbers a little reduced, and by the time you receive this, we shall be only a family, though a large family, party. Mr. Lushington goes tomorrow. Now I must speak of him, and I like him very much. I am sure he is clever and a man of taste. He got a volume of Milton last night and spoke of it with warmth. He is quite an MP, very smiling, with an exceeding good address and readiness of language. I am rather in love with him. I dare say he is ambitious and insincere. He puts me in mind of Mr. Dundas. He has a wide, smiling mouth and very good teeth, and something the same complexion and nose. He is a much shorter man, with Martha's leave. Does Martha never hear from Mrs. Craven? Is Mrs. Craven never at home? We breakfasted in the dining room today, and are now all pretty well dispersed and quiet. Charles and George are gone out shooting together to Winnigates and Seaton Wood. I asked on purpose to tell Henry. Mr. Lushington and Edud are gone some other way. I wish Charles may kill something, but this high wind is against their sport. Lady Williams is living at the Rose at Sittingbourne. They called upon her yesterday. She cannot live at Sheerness, and as soon as she gets to Sittingbourne is quite well. In return for all your matches, I announce that her brother William is going to marry a Miss Austen, of a Wiltshire family, who say they are related to us. I talked to Cassie about Chawton. She remembers much, but does not volunteer on the subject. Poor little love, I wish you were not so very Pomery, but it seems stronger than ever. I never knew a wife's family features have such undue influence. Papa and Mamma have not yet made up their mind as to parting with her or not. The chief, indeed the only, difficulty with Mamma is a very reasonable one, the child's being very unwilling to leave them. When it was mentioned to her, she did not like the idea of it at all. At the same time, she has been suffering so much lately from seasickness that her mamma cannot bear to have her much on board this winter. Charles is less inclined to part with her. I do not know how it will end, or what is to determine it. He desires his best love to you, and has not written because he has not been able to decide. They are both very sensible of your kindness on the occasion. I have made Charles furnish me with something to say about young Kendall. He is going on very well. When he first joined the Namur, my brother did not find him forward enough to be what they call put in the office, and therefore placed him under the schoolmaster. But he is very much improved, and goes into the office now every afternoon, still attending school in the morning. This cold weather comes very fortunately for Edward's nerves, with such a house full. It suits him exactly. He is all alive and cheerful. Poor James, on the contrary, must be running his toes into the fire. I find that Mary Jane Fowle was very near returning with her brother and paying them a visit on board. I forget exactly what hindered her. I believe the Cheltenham scheme. I am glad something did. They are to go to Cheltenham on Monday se'nnight. I don't vouch for their going, you know. It only comes from one of the family. Now I think I have written you a good-sized letter, and may deserve whatever I can get in reply. Infinities of love. I must distinguish that of Fanny, Senior, who particularly desires to be remembered to you all. Yours very affectionately, J. Austen. Faversham, Oct. 15, 1813. Miss Austen, Chawton, Alton, Hants. Per S. R. Lushington. Footnote 50. Godmersham Park, Oct. 18. My dear Aunt Cassandra, I am very much obliged to you for your long letter, and for the nice account of Chawton. We are all very glad to hear that the Adams are gone, and hope Dame Lipscomb will be more happy now with her deafy child, as she calls it, but I am afraid there is not much chance of her remaining long sole mistress of her house. I am sorry you had not any better news to send us of our hare, poor little thing. I thought it would not live long in that pondy house. I don't wonder that Mary Doe is very sorry it is dead, because we promised her that if it was alive when we came back to Chawton, we would reward her for her trouble. Papa is much obliged to you for ordering the scrubby firs to be cut down. I think he was rather frightened at first about the great oak. Fanny quite believed it, for she exclaimed, "Dear me, what a pity, how could they be so stupid? I hope by this time they have put up some hurdles for the sheep, or turned out the cart horses from the lawn. Pray tell grandmamma that we have begun getting seeds for her. I hope we shall be able to get her a nice collection, but I am afraid this wet weather is very much against them. How glad I am to hear she has had such good success with her chickens, but I wish there had been more bantams amongst them. I am very sorry to hear of poor Lizzie's fate. I must now tell you something about our poor people. I believe you know old Mary Croucher. She gets materer and materer every day. Aunt Jane has been to see her, but it was on one of her rational days. Poor Will Amos hopes your skewers are doing well. He has left his house in the Poor Row and lives in a barn at Bilting. We asked him why he went away, and he said the fleas were so starved when he came back from Chawton that they all flew upon him and innermost eat him up. How unlucky it is that the weather is so wet. Poor Uncle Charles has come home half drowned every day. I don't think little Fanny is quite so pretty as she was. One reason is because she wears short petticoats, I believe. I hope Cook is better. She was very unwell the day we went away. Papa has given me half a dozen new pencils, which are very good ones indeed. I draw every other day. I hope you go and whip Lucy Chalcraft every night. Miss Clues begs me to give her very best respects to you. She is very much obliged to you for your kind inquiries after her. Pray give my duty to grandmamma and love to Miss Floyd. I remain, my dear Aunt Cassandra, your very affectionate niece. Eliz night. Thursday, I think Lizzie's letter will entertain you. Thank you for yours just received. Tomorrow shall be fine if possible. You will be at Guildford before our party set off. They only go to Key Street, as Mr. Street the purser lives there, and they have promised to dine and sleep with him. Cassie's looks are much mended. She agrees pretty well with her cousins, but is not quite happy among them. They are too many and too boisterous for her. I have given her your message, but she said nothing, and did not look as if the idea of going to Chawton again was a pleasant one. They have Edward's carriage to Ospringe. I think I have just done a good deed. Extracted Charles from his wife and children upstairs, and made him get ready to go out shooting, and not keep Mr. Moore waiting any longer. Mr. and Mrs. Scherer and Joseph dined here yesterday very prettily. Edwa and Geo were absent, gone for a night to Easeling. The two Fannies went to Canty in the morning and took Lou and Cass to try on new stays. Harriet and I had a comfortable walk together. She desires her best love to you and kind remembrance to Henry. Fanny's best love also. I fancy there is to be another party to Canty. Tomorrow, Mr. and Mrs. Moore and me. Edward thanks Henry for his letter. We are most happy to hear he is so much better. I depend upon you for letting me know what he wishes as to my staying with him or not. You will be able to find out, I dare say. I had intended to beg you would bring one of my nightcaps with you, in case of my staying, but forgot it when I wrote on Tuesday. Edward is much concerned about his pond. He cannot now doubt the fact of its running out, which he was resolved to do as long as possible. I suppose my mother will like to have me write to her. I shall try at least. No, I have never seen the death of Mrs. Crabbe. I have only just been making out from one of his prefaces that he probably was married. It is almost ridiculous. Poor woman, I will comfort him as well as I can, but I do not undertake to be good to her children. She had better not leave any. Edwa and Geo set off this day week for Oxford. Our party will then be very small, as the Moores will be going about the same time. To enliven us, Fanny proposes spending a few days soon afterwards at Fredville. It will really be a good opportunity, as her father will have a companion. We shall all three go to Rotham, but Edud and I stay only a night perhaps. Love to Mr. Tilson. Yours very affectionately, J. A. Miss Austen. 10 Henrietta St, Covent Garden, London. Chapter 51. Godmersham Park, Wednesday, no. My dearest Cassandra, I will keep this celebrated birthday by writing to you, and as my pen seems inclined to write large, I will put my lines very close together. I had but just time to enjoy your letter yesterday before Edward and I set off in the chair for Canty, and I allowed him to hear the chief of it as we went along. We rejoice sincerely in Henry's gaining ground as he does, and hope there will be weather for him to get out every day this week, as the likeliest way of making him equal to what he plans for the next. If he is tolerably well, the going into Oxfordshire will make him better, by making him happier. Can it be that I have not given you the minutiae of Edward's plans? See, here they are. To go to Rotham on Saturday the 13th, spend Sunday there, and be in town on Monday to dinner, and if agreeable to Henry, spend one whole day with him, which day is likely to be Tuesday, and so go down to Chawton on Wednesday. But now I cannot be quite easy without staying a little while with Henry, unless he wishes it otherwise. His illness and the dull time of year together make me feel that it would be horrible of me not to offer to remain with him, and therefore, unless you know of any objection, I wish you would tell him with my best love that I shall be most happy to spend 10 days or a fortnight in Henrietta St, if he will accept me. I do not offer more than a fortnight, because I shall then have been some time from home, but it will be a great pleasure to be with him, as it always is. I have the less regret and scruple on your account, because I shall see you for a day and a half, and because you will have Edward for at least a week. My scheme is to take Bookham in my way home for a few days, and my hope that Henry will be so good as to send me some part of the way thither. I have a most kind repetition of Mrs. Cook's 2 or 3 dozen invitations, with the offer of meeting me anywhere in one of her airings. Fanny's cold is much better. By dosing and keeping her room on Sunday, she got rid of the worst of it, but I am rather afraid of what this day may do for her. She is gone to Canty, with Miss Clews, Liz, and Marn, and it is but roughish weather for anyone in a tender state. Miss Clews has been going to Canty ever since her return, and it is now just accomplishing. Edward and I had a delightful morning for our drive there. I enjoyed it thoroughly. But the day turned off before we were ready, and we came home in some rain and the apprehension of a great deal. It has not done us any harm, however. He went to inspect the jail as a visiting magistrate and took me with him. I was gratified and went through all the feelings which people must go through, I think, in visiting such a building. We paid no other visits, only walked about snugly together and shopped. I bought a concert ticket and a sprig of flowers for my old age. To vary the subject from gay to grave with inimitable address, I shall now tell you something of the Bath party. And still a Bath party they are, for a fit of the gout came on last week. The accounts of Lady B are as good as can be under such a circumstance. Dr. P says it appears a good sort of gout, and her spirits are better than usual, but as to her coming away, it is of course all uncertainty. I have very little doubt of Edward's going down to Bath, if they have not left it when he is in Hampshire. If he does, he will go on from Steventon, and then return direct to London, without coming back to Chawton. This detention does not suit his feelings. It may be rather a good thing, however, that Dr. P should see Lady B with the gout on her. Harriet was quite wishing for it. The day seems to improve. I wish my pen would too. Sweet Mr. Ogle, I dare say he sees all the panoramas for nothing, has free admittance everywhere. He is so delightful. Now, you need not see anybody else.